Judiciary is the third arm of government, but it's not treated properly. It's not treated adequately. We all know the chaos in the judiciary, lack of judges, lack of manpower, lack of everything, lack of facilities, lack of houses, improper pay, interference with the judiciary, jumping into their houses, raiding their houses, everything. So we all know it. So the least that they can do is respect the Constitution. And the Constitution is so clear. Judges and the judiciary are independent in terms of funding, and their funds would come straight from the revenue purse of the federal government, not controlled by the executive or the National Assembly, or indeed the governor or the House of Assembly. They are independent. That's what the Constitution says. Now, at the time I was member of the NJC and I brought this up, I was surprised that Aloma Mukhtar, then Chief Justice, was not keen to take it up. And I said, no, my lord, I disagree. If the NJC will not, then I'll do it personally, which I did. And I took it to 2 states. I took it to Ekiti State, not because Fayemi was there, because he wasn't the governor at the time, but I took it to Ekiti to represent the state judiciary. And I took it to Abuja to represent the federal process. And I won in both cases. And Juson also went. So there are 3 independent court cases verifying and confirming that the judiciary ought to be funded according to the constitutional provisions that makes it independent of the executive. Okay, obey the thing now. They won't. That's the problem.
How would you react to the comments by the state governments at the center of this controversy that they are arguing that the order number 10, the executive order number 10, is unconstitutional, particularly the part that empowers the Accountant General of the Federation to withhold monies due to the judiciary from source?
Yeah, because the Constitution is not an enforceable document unless somebody executes it. It's not self-executing. Somebody must execute it. Who is the person? The president. Look at Section 5. The president is responsible for the maintenance and sustenance of the Constitution. So in exercise of his powers under Section 5 of the Constitution, he has issued that executive order. I'd like to see it interpreted into the Supreme Court to see if I'm wrong. But clearly, what he has done is constitutional. So the president is simply saying, don't pay it to the governor of X state. Pay it to either the NJC for capital, for CAPEX, or for OPEX, operational expenses. Pay it to the local judiciary. What's wrong with that? He's actually, in fact, the president should get praise. He's normally knocked on the head for doing the wrong things. This is when he should be praised for doing exactly what the Constitution prescribes.
But they were saying they weren't carried along in the process.
Do they have to be carried along to obey the Constitution? They don't have to be carried along. It's not their money.
The issue of financial autonomy also brought to the fore the issue of accountability for budgeted funds. Do you think that an independent body should be created to perform that function?
If you look at the fiscal responsibility in the Constitution, I've argued without success that the office of the Accountant General and Auditor General should be as important and secure as the office of the Chief Justice of Nigeria. Because if you want the Accountant General and the Auditor General to perform the role prescribed in the Constitution, they can't, for the simple reason that the President of Nigeria, and a president actually did it, and the president that did it was OBJ, he fired the Auditor General. So no Auditor General can actually conduct and police public revenue because they are weak. So we need to see a guaranteed tenure for these offices so they can do their work without fear or favor. But the way it is now, where they are in the civil service, they can't do anything. So when you talk about auditing public funds, who's going to do it? Everyone wants to keep his job. I don't blame the Auditor General or the Accountant General. He goes and audits something, next thing he's sacked. So the entire framework of public revenue and its audit is something that requires constitutional amendment so that these offices have full guarantee. If I put you there as Auditor General, it will not be at the pleasure of the President. It will be as a result of the combined provisions of interlocking offices. The president plays a role, maybe in nominating. The National Assembly plays a role in the confirmation, and the money budgeted for the office of that Auditor General is free from executive or legislative interference. Then you will see these guys do their job. But for now, no. We don't have audits in Nigeria. That's why corruption is so rife in the public service.
Does that mean that even the funds generated by the judiciary is not audited?
It's absolutely not audited. You're talking about judiciary. What about the other one, executive? They haven't even finished auditing the executive to speak of the judiciary. So the entire public revenue structure needs to be disassembled.
I also want to get your comments to this suggestion from Chief Afe Babalola, SAN, who during the week proposed 100 years as retirement age for Supreme Court justices from 70. Is it a realistic suggestion?
At 100, how many Nigerians can walk? It's too old. And I get his point. The point is, the older the judges, the more wise you become. And the sage of a judge doesn't come from him being 40-something. It's when he's old and reflective. So I think the point he's making is not so much that 100 years. I don't know how many Nigerians get to 100 anyway.
Did your father get to 100?
He didn't get to 100. So the point is, 70 might be a bit too early, and I think so. 70 is when the judge, when I can think of Oputa, I can think of Shaw, I can think of all of them. They were at their peak. I mean, Shaw, after he finished, went on to a very active life in arbitration. He could continue to 90. So, if that's the point my learned senior Afe is making, I agree, but I disagree about I agree with the policy that 70 might be too early, because look at Bodero's Bible. It can go on to another 20 years. So I accept entirely, because in America, as you know, judges are there for life, and they give great decisions. Thurgood Marshall and all of them give great decisions as they age, because that's what our wig is about. So nobody knows this. The wig we're on our head is about wisdom. The fact that your hair is gray. If your hair is black, you're not a wise person. So it needs to be gray. And I agree entirely at 70, we need to review it.
The issue of qualification and caliber of judges to be appointed has also been very topical lately, against the background of the comments made by the president of the NBA that some judges at their screening for appointment could not answer basic legal questions. We've heard the president of the Court of Appeal come out to say that, well, judges can learn on the job. There's room for them to learn on the job. Where do you stand on that debate?
Yeah, it's a good question. You see, the thing is, I think now is the time to begin to consider removing the veil of secrecy over these judicial appointments, because it's all secret. You know, nobody knows what's happening. Take the appointment of American Supreme Court judge. You know how it is. It's grilling. All kinds of questions. What's your opinion on gone? What's your opinion on everything? Here, nothing. So I go back to the cause of all this problem, the military, who became terrorized, incidentally by us in the human rights community, when we said, don't touch the judiciary. So the judiciary took it, and I've taken it a bit too far. So everything is secret. And along came the most improbable person to recommend roots and branch reform of the judiciary, in the shape of the late Justice Dahiru Mustafa. He was the most unlikely person. I could never believe it, because when he was here as presiding judge of the Court of Appeal, and I used to appear before him, I just felt this was a conservative person. Lo and behold, became Chief Justice of Nigeria. It was a transformation. He called together 29 top people, I was part of them, to sit and advise him, what do we do about the judiciary? And we produced a fantastic report. How can a judge or an aspiring judge not answer a question? He's failed. If he can't answer procedural questions, no problem. He will learn that on the job, how to tap the registrar and how to call for paper. But if he doesn't have substantive knowledge, he doesn't qualify to be a judge. There's no question of learning. But because we don't know, after all, I wasn't there. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known. But because President or the NBA, Olisa Agbakoba was there. So we know. So all the structural defects in the judiciary require to be removed by the simple implementation of the Dahiru Mustafa report. The structure of the judiciary requires to be modernized in the context of having speedy and efficient dispensation of justice. But right now, apart from the secrecy that I've alluded to, where we don't know what happens, everything is hush-hush, which gives rise to any number of gossips. And a lot of times, these gossips may not be true. So an active information process by the NJC will be relevant. But the other point that I've made all through the years is I don't understand why, and I'm 43 years now at the bar, if I don't understand it, I don't know who else would. Why is it that this is not just the judiciary, everything in Nigeria, there's like one head in control. So for the judiciary, there's the CJN controlling everything. I think it's time to unbundle and unpack. So you find that there are 36 states in Nigeria, all with different ramifications. So take a complex land matter in Onitsha between Onowu family and Ofodele family, understood by the people around. The Court of Appeal in Enugu or Asaba, which deals with Onitsha, has the presiding judge, Mr. Justice Bello, who is from Kebbi. Because that is what the national judicial process says. He has no idea. Or you have a Mr. Justice Obi sitting in Kaduna. He has no idea of the difference between northern Kaduna or southern Kaduna, that there's a bridge. I know this because I was born in the north. But the guy has no idea. And part of the smooth delivery of justice is that you understand the community. The same with policing. If you take Commissioner of Police Dan Zauzau to Enugu, and then take Mr. Okafor to Zaria, he's lost. He's lost. So it's time, and that's part of the argument of restructuring. Because all what I'm saying deals with a larger national issue. Let's really allow the states to breathe. Let the judicial process in the state breathe. Let the process in Anambra State be a process that is homegrown. And let us end the judicial process in Anambra State. Because it's ridiculous that the Supreme Court will be dealing with cases. This is what, 2021? They are dealing with 2015 cases. Because everybody's running there. And I can assure you, when I was deputy chair of the Speed of Justice Committee, chaired by Belgore, we both agreed with our committee members 75% of the cases in Nigeria should not be in the courts in the first place. 90% of cases in the Supreme Court should not be there in the first place. Unfortunately, in the Supreme Court here, there's no filter. In the American Supreme Court, there's a filter. They won't even sit. They'll throw it out. The way to go to resolve this problem that I'm describing, let the Supreme Court be unbundled. Justice Bode Rosevival should have been the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Lagos State, not the Supreme Court of Nigeria. He will do effective justice here. He has added nothing there. And so on for the other justices. So those who go out to become justices of the Supreme Court will be few. And their caseload will be tiny. The bulk of Nigeria doesn't have to go to the Supreme Court. So that's the point I'm making.